Welcome back to location planning. This happens to be my favorite chapter, location, location, location. We're going to talk about the importance of location, different location factors, location evaluation methods using a point rating system, and the cost, profit, volume, or break-even analysis. So let's go right in and ask, what are the questions you need to ask when considering a facility? First, what type of facilities are needed? What is your job? Is it a production? Is it service? Is it a restaurant? Is it a library? Is it a bookstore? Is it a coffee house? All of these things need different types of locations. Or different types of facilities. So take a look at that. Then where are locations of the facilities? Do you already have facilities available? Where are they located? What is the necessary capacity of the facility? How big does it need to be? And you need to figure this out on the front end because it really matters on how much property you need for this, how much room for parking lots. Can you build up? Can you not build up? Some areas actually have a restriction on how many floors you can have. Is it something where you can build up or can you only build out due to weight? What should be the internal layout or arrangement of a facility? How do you arrange a facility? Where should people be? Where should they go? That's important also. So let's start taking a look at determining size and capacity. We're going to start with what's called resource requirements planning. We're going to take a look at the level of demand. We're going to use our forecasts, those lovely forecasts we did last chapter, and we're going to convert those into estimates for our workforce. How many people do we need? What type of equipment do we need? How much workspace do we need to get this done? Some machines take up a lot of space. Some machines take up very small spaces. And we're going to use different approaches to making these estimates, capacity planning by overall factors, and we can take a look at more detailed studies or time standards, which we take a look at later. Why is there an importance of location? Well, the first is competition. Where is our competition located? Are they close by or far away? Do we want to be near them? If you've ever noticed, a lot of times you'll find car dealerships, one right after the other or in a very close proximity of each other. Restaurants, restaurant row. You'll see that restaurants are right there next to each other, competing against each other. Why? Because you can draw people away. If there's a line at one place, you'll go someplace next door, or as you're driving by to go to one place, it's like, oh, this place sounds even better. And some hidden effects. It's costly, very costly to build and to renovate. So you want to make those decisions based on what the cost is, what's nearby, how close are you to your market, to your customers. We're going to take a look at all of these type of things, how close to raw materials. These are part of our hidden effects. Poor location decisions are costly and long-lasting and not always directly observable. When we take a look at location factors, it costs so much money to pick up and move. I had a friend who just moved 3 bedrooms, a 2-bedroom house down to Florida. And the cost of that was astronomical. She expected a cost to be about $1,000 to $2,000, and it was closer to $6,000 by the time they had the weight, the distance, moving everything down, packing everything up, all of these things put together. So you take a look at how much it costs to do these type of things. If you want to move a facility later, if you build a building and the building isn't right, it becomes an issue. How much does it cost to build a building? It's rhetorical. Don't even try to answer that right now. Some different location factors, the market-related factors. Centroid considerations, a weighted center of demand. Where's your market? You want to be in the center of that market. You want to be near them. You want to take a look at who your customers are now and who they might be in the future so that you are able to work towards meeting their demands, meeting where they are. There's a restaurant I really like. It takes me an hour to get there. I don't go there often because I don't have an hour to drive there to eat and drive back. I don't have that type of time. So it's not something I go to frequently. So you take a look at those types of issues. Are you near a demand? The competitors in the area, again, so you can steal competition. Do you want to be by competitors, or do you want to be standalone where there are no competitors around you so that they can't steal your customers, or you can't steal theirs? Are you close to suppliers? Sometimes it costs so much money to ship raw material in that you want to be closer to suppliers than to market, which leads us to some of our tangible cost being materials or market oriented on transportation. If you are market oriented, you are close to your customers. If you're materials oriented, your raw materials are within a central area and you want to be centralized to them so that it's cost less to get the raw materials. It's cheap. If it's cheaper to send out a finished product, you want to be more materials oriented when you take a look at a location. If it costs more to ship out a finished product, you want to be market oriented. If you're a service, you usually want to be market oriented also. And these again are tangible factors which we're taking a look, the touchable, the things that we can actually put our fingers on. Wage rates and wage availability and employee availability. When you take a look at wages, things cost differently across our nation. When I first moved down here, I should say about a year after I moved back down here, I had a 2-bedroom condo with 2 off-street parking spaces, and I paid $375 a month for it. Comparable in square footage, my brother-in-law had a townhouse in Center City, Philadelphia that he rented out. 2-bedroom, 0 parking, and it was rented out. At the time, I was paying $375 a month for my 2-bedroom condo. He was getting over $1,000 a month. So a big difference in cost of living in different places. And this deals with wages. I moved back down here and took a similar job for a pay cut, but I was able to earn more. So what are the wage rates and what are the availability of employees? We take a look at unemployment issues that we'll look at later. And unemployment is actually good when you're looking to move into an area because you'll have workers. So you want lower wages. And of course, if the wages are higher and there's nobody employed, you have to steal people, which means paying them higher wage rates. And remember, if you're thinking like a manager, your cost of production, part of it is your employees' pay rate, their wage rates. Energy availability and the cost. Living here in Tennessee, we have the Tennessee Valley Authority, and actually the cost of energy is very low comparably to California, where cost of electricity and cost of energy is very high. So you need to take a look at those things. Water availability, especially if you have a product that needs water. Is there water available? Is there water lines already set up? Setting up water and sewer lines is very costly. Site construction. How much is the land going to cost, and how much are the construction costs? Very, very different in different parts of the nation, so you want to take that into consideration. You also want to take a look at taxes and tax considerations. You know, I'm doing this in it's September right now, and we just had a presidential debate, and they were talking about taxes and corporate taxes, and should we raise them, lower them? Well, a lot of places give tax considerations, and my hometown actually talked to a company to bring it in. It is Alstrom's, which deals with trains and subway cars and refurbishing them. And I come from a small town in Western New York, Hornell, that's with an H. And we used to be, for the railroad, we were a stop and did a lot of maintenance. So we have a lot of the buildings already there to do refurbishing of subway cars and everything else. Now, there's no subways anywhere near my hometown. They actually have to truck them in. So they bring in these cars, these subway cars, to refurbish them. And this company is there because the mayor and the city manager went over and said, if you would like to bring your industry to Hornell, which was a dying town, then we'll give you tax breaks. So take a look at the taxes that are there, the cost of taxes, and whether or not there are any breaks available going into a certain area. Some of the intangible factors are international considerations. If you are doing business globally, which any company who has a internet page, has a web page, is doing business internationally probably, then you have to take into consideration about shipping out to your international customers or getting supplies in, raw materials in from your international suppliers. So what are the considerations? Believe it or not, the Tri-Cities Airport is a port of entry into the United States for goods due to some of the businesses that we have in this area. So they're able to ship out there, do customs. There's customs agents. You cannot do people in and out of the country, but you can do goods in and out of the country there. And that's a consideration for this area. Telecommunications. What is the cost of Ethernet? What is the cost of getting phone lines put in? What is the cost? And what other services are available there? We're taking a look at how much this is, and if it's already wired for you, that's a huge savings. If you drive up and down Route 81 through southwestern Virginia, you'll see that it's considered a technological corridor, and they have things like Ethernet and computer wiring already to the buildings, or willing to put it into the buildings at these sites, which is a huge, huge plus for these companies to come in and start working there. Speed and responsiveness of support. How close is a fire department? How close? Where is the nearest fire hydrant? You need to take this into consideration. What type of business are you doing that there might be accidents? Something might come up. Do you have ambulances nearby, fire, or is it a volunteer fire department, or is it a manned fire department? These are things that you have to take a look at. And when you take a look at insurance for a building, I know that when I moved into my condo, the first thing we took a look at is how close were the fire hydrants, how close was the police, was it, where was the closest fire department, was it volunteer or not, and that all affected my insurance rate. So you need to take a look at those type of things. Zoning and legal regulations. How is it zoned? We're in a huge debate in this area, and it's been going on for years. For as long back as I've been here, since 1990, it hasn't been going back that far, but looking at methadone clinics and zoning for methadone clinics. And should it be, they've tried it in Bristol, Kingsport, Johnson City. They're now trying to get one into Gray, and we've actually been zoned. They're looking at zoning regulations are being changed so that they can put a methadone clinic there. But these are things you have to take a look at. My grandfather started a junkyard, and my cousin took over the junkyard through the years. My uncles took it over, and then my cousin took it over. And he wanted to buy a tract of land. And it was a small tract, literally it's a railroad track that was no longer being used, and a small piece of land on either side, the easeway on either side. And he bought that land, and the people on the other side of that land were very, very upset. We no longer have this space in between us and the junkyard. We have this eyesore. How this is terrible. How can you do this? And was putting up all of these arguments. And so it was agreed upon that there would be trees put up in between, fast growing trees so that it would block the site of the junkyard, because who wants all this scrap metal in their backyard, looking out their back window or sitting on their back deck. And this one woman really just pushed and pushed, and they planted these trees and they put up this fence, and apparently she's not able to get into a back building because she put it on the property line instead of using an easement, putting an X number of feet from the property line, and she put the door to it in the back instead of facing her house, which I never understood. But she kept pushing and pushing. The trees you put up weren't the ones that we agreed on. They're X, centimeters shorter. You agreed to have it, this tall, and they're only this tall, although they put it in a faster growing one. So I don't know where her problem was, but she just kept pushing. So my cousin and his lawyer went to the mayor of the city where she was bringing complaints against him, and found out that where she lives was zoned business and not residential. Brought it to the mayor and said, you might want to warn her of this, because if we bring this up, she's got to move. So apparently they told her privately, and she calmed down. But you look at those type of things also. What other legal regulations do you have to, depending on where you're at, you might have to have certain types of awnings. How big can the signs be? What type of signs can you post? These are all zoning and legal regulations that are in there. Environmental factors. What is the environmental factors? Do you have an exhaust that could be dangerous? Is a byproduct something that's going into the water system? Is it noise pollution? All of these things are environmental factors that you have to take into consideration on what's allowable where and when you choose a location, a site to build or to renovate. What's the community attitudes? Looking at the methadone clinic here, it's very heated arguments on should you have a methadone clinic in the area, and everyone's like, oh great, it's fine to have it, we need to treat, but not in my neighborhood. So you look to see what type of industry you're in, what type of business you're in, and do people want you in that area? What is the attitudes towards you? I personally try never to live near a church, because I know of traffic on Sundays is really bad, and if you want to go somewhere on Sunday, you're not going to be able to get out. So I try not to live on the same road or near a church because of that. And that's my own personal attitude towards something, and looking at what's around you. Increase of traffic, increase of noise, the type of clientele that will be coming, all of that. Expansion potential. How big? How far can you build up? Can you build out? Can you expand if need be? If your business is going to grow, are you buying extra property right now to allow that growth? Or do you need to think about it for later? That's something that has to be taken in consideration. And lastly here, an intangible factors is quality of life. I hear so often that there's nothing to do in Johnson City. And I'm going to refute that. I'm going to say, start looking. The quality of life here is superb for bringing business in. There are multiple religious institutions here. If you go to Kingsport, you have, a church on every single corner in downtown Kingsport. You have hiking, skiing, you have concerts, you have museums, you have so much to do in this area. You can do water sports, you can do, like I said, the hiking and camping. A lot of these things are within an hour. If you're living in a bigger city, an hour is nothing to travel to get to an event. So you look at that. So with this, the cultural factors, the social support, the health and social services available. We're a medical corridor here in Johnson City. What do we have? We have a lot to offer. So we look at all of those things involved. And on top of that, you also take a look at the tax rates for people and everything else that goes in there to see, is this a good place to build a new business or not? So if we take a look at location evaluation methods, we start with satisficing solutions. Satisficing solutions is going to be adding in quantitative and qualitative together. Considerations, especially important for retails, is competition in the area or related establishments. My sister used to buy my nieces and nephews' shoes at Buster Brown when they were little. And right next to Buster Brown's was a Chuck E. Cheese. Literally, she would bribe them. You know, sit down, let's get this done, and after we're all done buying shoes, we'll go to Chuck E. Cheese. We'll go to McDonald's, you can play on the playground. These type of things. Or a children's shoe store by a children's dress shop. A lot of times by a supermarket, you'll find a laundry service, a dry cleaner, because people, as they run in to get their milk and eggs, will drop off dry cleaning or pick it up. So it's related establishments. How available is the site? Is it easy to get if you've got somebody else already there? You can't get it. If their lease is up, are you going to go into a bargaining war where you'll end up paying a higher price? What about the traffic counts? How many of you have ever seen those nice little rubber hoses on the road that you run over with that's attached to a little box? That's taking a traffic count. How many cars go by? And it's very important because you're expecting out of the number of cars that go by, a percentage of those will actually stop and come into your business. So the higher the traffic count, the more likely you'll have business there. What's parking like? Good parking, bad parking? Is there parking? I love going to Walmart, love to shop, but I won't go to the Walmart in North Johnson City because I can't stand the parking lot. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have directional parking. It doesn't have pull-in parking. It's got everything in the same row. It doesn't make sense to me. So I find it easier to go to a different Walmart, a different place to shop because of parking. At Christmas time, if I need something, I run over to Kmart because there's never anybody at Kmart. So there's lots of parking at Kmart. So if it's something that I know that they'll have, I'll just run in there. What type of regulations do you have? That's signage. That's taking a look at being open. When I worked years ago, back in the 1980s, at Tom McCann's shoe store in Johnson City, Tennessee, or excuse me, Johnson City, New York, before I moved here to Johnson City, Tennessee, we had a Chick-fil-A in our mall that was closed every Sunday. Chick-fil-A is not open on Sundays. They got fined for being closed every Sunday. Now they put it in their contract and they did a set amount for the fine for that instead of paying out for every single Sunday. But the shoe store I worked at, Tom McCann, we had to be open. Our gates had to be open at 10 o'clock in the morning. We would have mall employees that walk by to make sure, and we'd get a fine if they weren't. The gate could not come down until 9 p.m. at night. If the gate came down before that, then we were notified. There was one day that there was a terrible snowstorm, and people were having problems getting in. They hadn't closed the mall. And there were a lot of stores that were fined because their employees couldn't get to the mall for that 10 o'clock opening. Luckily, they closed the mall I think about 11:30, and they did put in a notice that they would not be putting the fines in because of the weather. But a lot of places couldn't get open. So you take a look, there was a traffic accident on the main road, actually 81, and people couldn't get in to work because they were stuck in traffic. They couldn't get to the exit to get off, to get to the mall. And again, those stores that weren't open by 10 a.m. were fined for that because somebody was supposed to be there. Other miscellaneous factors. How easy is it for road access on? How is it to, is there a light there? Can you make a left turn or a right turn? Or can you only make a right turn out of the parking lot? This is part of availability of a site, getting in and getting out. Miscellaneous factors are in there too. All of that's put in there that we need to see if it satisfies our needs. So we'll actually be doing what's called a point rating system in just a few minutes to look at this satisficing solution. We can take a look at geographic information systems that gives us a lot of this information. It will let us know what we need to do that. It will let us know the topography. It will let us know roads. It will let us know lights that are out there so that we can understand more about that before we even visit a site to see. Some general steps in selecting a location. We're going to start with the general region. Where do you want to open up your business? Do you want to open up in the Northeast, in the Southeast, out West? Depending on what it is and where you are, you need to take a look at that. Then you can start taking a look at communities. If we're taking a look at communities, we can take a look at the Tri-Cities area. We can take a look at Knoxville, Nashville, Chattanooga, or the Tri-Cities. Because we decided we want to open up in Tennessee, then we can start taking a look at within a community. If you're looking at, you want to open up in the Tri-Cities, let's take a look at Bristol, Johnson City, Kingsport. Maybe you want to be in Gray, you want to be in Boones Creek. Maybe you want to be in Piney Flats, in between somewhere. You want to be in Blountville. Maybe you want to be outside of it and in Greenville so that you can get people from both Knoxville and the Tri-Cities. So you take a look at the sites within that community. Then determine a method of evaluating the community site combinations. How and what is important to you? What do you want to take a look for that satisficing? What will satisfy your need? Then compare those sites and select ones. And we're going to do that in just a few minutes with a point rating system. You want to take a look also of the grouping of service areas. Looking at the grouping of service areas, what services are put together? If you're a children's store, is there a child-friendly restaurant nearby? Is, Burger King, Dairy Queen, McDonald's, those type of things. Grocery store often takes a look at having a gas station or taking a look at having the dry cleaners. I think every single Cracker Barrel is near a hotel or a motel. Those type of things are near a highway exit. So looking at that, we can take a look at the cost, profit, volume, or break even. What is cost, profit, and volume? We're taking a look at a profit statement, and profit is equal to revenue minus total cost. When we want to take a look at a break even, we take a look at our profit equaling 0 or our revenue equaling our total cost. We're going to do a point rating system here in just a minute to show you how that can be done and satisficing. Transportation method of linear programming. Taking a look at transportation in and out, especially if you're doing production. You should have done that and taken a look at that in decision science, but knowing that that's something you can take a look at. And simulations are also used in helping define what is the best area to be in. So let's take a look at a point rating example. In this, Pueblo, a southwestern chain of stores that sells decorative accessories for the home, is considering opening a store in Tennessee. 3 potential sites are being evaluated for the new store. Each factor used in evaluating these sites has been assigned a weight to represent its relative importance to the potential success of a store. So we're looking at evaluating and using weights, and we're actually using a weighted average here. Okay? This right here is the qualitative part of this, is you are calculating and deciding what the weights should be. The 3 sites were then assigned points on a scale between 0 and the best possible score of 100 to illustrate how well it scored with regard to the particular factor. Again, you're giving them these scores. Rank the 3 sites shown in the following table on the basis of the total weighted points for each site. So we're looking at Gatlinburg, Bristol, and Johnson City that Pueblo wants to open up this store at. We have our weights, and if we take a look at our weights here, what is the sum of our weights? Well, there's 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 0.10. So it's 1.0. It's adding up to 1.0. It's adding up to 100%. So 10%, 10%, 30%, 20%, 20%, 10% is what we're going to do. To find out our weighted sum or our point scale on this, what we are going to do is take our weight and multiply it by the number of points that was earned. Now let's take a look at this to find about high points versus low points. High points, 100 is the highest you can go, and that means it was really good. Well, construction costs. Does the higher the cost, is that good? No. So the lower the construction costs, the higher points you'll get. So lower cost of construction is the higher the points. Operating cost, also the cost you want to be low. So the lower the cost, the higher number of points someone will get. Traffic count. Traffic counts, you want a lot of people coming by, because the more people walk by, the more people who will be likely to stop. So a higher traffic count will give you a higher point score. Convenient access. How easy is it to get in and out of the parking lot, the store? To get there, is there a roadway that's there? Is there a light at the road? Can you make a left or a right turn there? Can you only go in one direction? That's all part of convenient access. And the better it is, the higher the number will be. Parking area. What's parking like? Is there designated spots for you? Is there handicap parking? All of these things are taken into consideration when we take a look at parking area. Is a parking lot easy to get in and out of? So the better you deem the parking area, the higher the weight. And then the surrounding populations. This is a demographic. How big is a population? You'll be giving a score based on that. So taking a look at this with construction costs, we're literally going to multiply that by our weight. So 0.1 times 60 is a 6. Our operating costs, we're also going to multiply, and it's going to be 0.1 times 6 is another 6. Traffic count, 0.3 times 90 was our weight, was our point score here, is 27. Convenient access, we're going to multiply that by our 75, and it's going to be 15. Parking area, multiply 0.2, the weight given to the number of points given. This is going to be 12. And surrounding population, we're going to give it 7 points, the weighted points. I want to now add all this up to get my weighted score. And if I add 6, 6, 27, 15, 12, and 7 together, I should get 73. I'm now using those exact same weights. I'm going to take them and multiply them by the numbers here in Bristol. So 0.1 times 70 is going to be 7. 0.1 times 70 is going to be 7. 0.3 times 80 is going to be 24. 0.2 times 80 is going to be 16. 0.2 times 75 is going to be 15, and 0.1 times 60 is going to be 6. If I add these up, the weighted score for Bristol is going to be 75. Last, I'm going to take these weights and multiply them out for Johnson City. 0.10 times 8 is going to give me 8. My operating cost, 0.10 times 80 is again going to give me 8. Traffic count, 0.3. Notice that traffic count's pretty important there. It's going to give me 21. For convenient access, I'm going to get 14. For parking area, 18, and lastly 7.5 for surrounding population. If I sum all of these up, I should get 76.5. Which one then satisfies what Pueblo was looking for the best? Well, based on these three numbers, who has the highest? Johnson City. So Pueblo should look to Johnson City and build in Johnson City. Let's take a look now at a cost, profit, volume, or break-even analysis example. Maria Hartwell is comparing two sites for her clothing boutique, which she has decided to relocate from a tiny strip mall that has had declining business over the past 2 years. Maria's casual clothing generally appeals to younger customers, and both sites will be more visible to those customers. One site is located downtown near the campus of a prestigious prep school. The other is in a popular indoor shopping mall. Both sites have high traffic counts, which Marie believes will be an important factor to her boutique success. She estimates that the average number of customers each day will be about 0.33% of the traffic count. Ooh, that's important. And that the value of the average sale per customer will be about $30. So my average sale is $30, which is the median price of her clothes. The average cost of clothing she sells is 50% of retail. More important information I need. Marie needs to do some renovations at each site, and she will be paying monthly rent at each. Her shop will be open 306 days per year. Compare the annual before tax profit for both sites. This is very important because tax can be different. If one is city and one is county, tax rates could be different in both. So we want to take a look at a profit statement. And remember, profit is equal to revenue minus total cost. So from the last page, I have the information that my traffic count that's traffic count if you can't read my scribbles, that we want 0.33% of this. This is, I should say, the number of customers. Is 0.3% of our traffic count. My average sale is $30. The average cost is 50% of $30. Half of 30 then is 15. I'm doing that math in my head. And I'm going to be open 306 days per year. So that's my chicken scratch so that I know I can get that information in here without having to go back and forth. So I need to take a look at downtown profit and mall profit. So I'm going to start with profit for downtown. If I take a look at my revenue, what is involved in my revenue? Well, my number of customers is going to be 0.33% of the daily traffic count. So 0.33% is 0.0033. Want that of my traffic count, which for downtown is 16500. I want to multiply that by that average sale. That's the number of sales I'm going to have per day. That's the price of each sale. I want to do an annual before tax profit here. So I want to do 306 days of this. This is my revenue. I want to subtract from that my cost. I have variable cost and fixed cost. My variable cost is going to be the cost of the merchandise that I have. Well, how much merchandise do I need? I need what I'm going to sell. So I need 0.0033 times 16,500 times the cost of the merchandise, which was $15, times the number of days. There's my variable cost. That's a 306. Again, you excuse my chicken scratch here. I want to add to that my fixed costs. My site preparation is a fixed cost, and my operating costs are fixed costs. I need to have these. So this is $22,000 for site preparation, and I have $11,000 per month. How many months in a year? 12 months per year, so it's going to cost me $11,000 per month. That's my formula for this. So looking at this, if I times 0.0033 times 16,500 times 30 times 306, I'm going to get 499,851. I want to subtract from that. Oh, let's see, 0.0033 times 16,500 times 15 times 306 should be 249,925.5. I want to add to that 22,000 plus 12 times 11,000 is 132,000. Just to do the math for this part right here, 249,925.5 plus 22,000 plus 132,000 is 403,925.5. Subtract that from 49,851, and if I did my math right, we should have $95,925.50 profit before taxes. Now, I've already figured out my math, my formula. I'm not going to go back and try to reinvent the wheel here when I take a look to do my profit for the mall. What I'm going to take a look at is, where do I need to substitute? So I need to substitute traffic. I need to substitute fixed cost. I don't have to substitute 12 months a year. They're both open the same number of days. Cost and sales are the same, but traffic numbers are going to differ. So if I take a look at figuring out the revenue side, it's going to be, again, 33% or 0.33% or 0.0033 of my traffic count, which for the mall is 18,300 times the cost of my merchandise, or excuse me, the price of my merchandise, $30 average price, times the number of days I'm open. There's my revenue side. Looking at my total cost side, variable cost is going to start off with, again, 0.33% or 0.0033 times the mall's daily traffic count, 18,300, times the cost of my clothes, the $15, times the days open, plus my fixed cost, which here is 25,000, plus 12 months times my operating costs, which is 12,000. So looking at my total cost here, if I do this out, it's going to be 277,190.10 plus 25,000 plus 144,000, or 466,190.10, and my revenue is going to be 554,380 with 20 cents. So if I take this minus that, I'm going to end up with $98,190.10. My my annual before tax profit is larger at the mall, so I should go to the mall. The mall is where is the best place, not me, Marie, should go to. This ends up taking a look at faculty location. If you have any questions, please get a hold of me. You do have a homework assignment with this, so be sure that you do that. And the next time when we come back, we'll take a look at process and facility selection, taking a look at layouts of facilities. So have a nice day, and we'll see you next time.